I definitely think Scotland was one of the best places I've ever ridden, and I'm really glad I did it as my second country because it set a high bar for what the rest of my trip could be. In total, I was in Scotland for about a week, from the evening of July 15th to the morning of July 22nd. And I'm not even exaggerating here, there were dozens of times that week where I was just shaking my head laughing at how stunning Scotland was. Because I was used to riding somewhere where the whole land is flat and all the roads are straight. And this was my first time really riding somewhere with nice sweeping bends at a high speed limit and great tarmac and lovely weather. Admittedly, the weather isn't guaranteed to be nice in Scotland, but I was very fortunate and only had about one day of rain, and that was during a rest day. So the vast majority of the time I was on the road was just in the lovely warmth and sunshine. The thing that got me is I was constantly going over a hill or going around a bend, and there was just a lovely valley or a really scenic loch. The only concern I had from Scotland was wondering whether or not everywhere else on my trip would hold up. So I tried to force myself to appreciate everywhere on its own merits rather than comparing them to other places. I pulled over here to check my phone. I'd been planning to stop off at a castle on my way through, but it turns out that the road to it was closed. So instead I carried on up toward Nairn. Coming around that corner to see this sweeping bend in front of me honestly made me a little bit giddy. I couldn't resist twisting the wrist a little to blast through this one. Spoiler alert, I ignored the signs telling me to go slow. I can see the logic if it was a frosty winter morning, but not when it's a lovely summery day. Of course, Scotland isn't just mountains and valleys and lochs. They also have some pretty nice forests up there. I took a little detour off the A93 to the B976 to cut through a bit more of the mountainous roads. I'm glad I did, the views here were fantastic. Of course, with a caveat that the views everywhere were fantastic. I have a whole separate video highlighting just one valley through the Cairngorms that I thought was too good not to save as a single take. I wasn't super happy about this incident though. I was just leaning into the corner when the road suddenly dropped. I'll show it a couple more times in slow motion. And in this frame you can even see the distortion that the impact caused. Fortunately, this was just alarming rather than a real problem. And the next bend absolutely made up for it. Just a minute down the road from this intersection, I actually met my first Canadian in the wild. I saw signs for Cairngorms Castle, so I stopped by to see what the fuss was about, and on my way up, there was somebody coming down wearing a Toronto Blue Jays hat. So I had to ask, and yeah, they were from the Toronto area too. After meeting those Canadians, I recorded this voice memo, which was perhaps a little prescient.
It's funny though, everyone I seem to meet is going the opposite direction to me. We've had Tyler, who is coming from Inverness to Perth. We have these people who are coming from Inverness down south. Not sure where they're ending up. Oh, they said Edinburgh. Maybe at Inverness there'll be people going the same way that I can hang out with, meet up with along the way, but we'll see.
I'd been stuck behind this truck through some really nice windy roads and there wasn't anywhere to overtake. But they were super cool and pulled over to let me by. They didn't need to do that, so I really appreciated it. I have a lot more fun when I can go at my own pace. I thought this manor castle whose battlements went over the road was really cool. And with this we come to my last clip of the day. My route from here led me toward Nairn, where my nan used to live for a while. I've only been there once, 20 years ago, so I hardly remember it. Which is why, given the opportunity, I wanted to stop by. I made it there in the mid-afternoon and then carried on to Inverness for the evening. From there, I planned to properly start the NC 500, the whole reason I wanted to go to Scotland in the first place. Funnily enough, I did have another interesting encounter in Inverness. Just listen to this one.
The guy pulled up to me at a roundabout. "You're from Canada, eh?" I said, "Yeah," and he went, "Excellent, carry on." I just thought it was very funny that he read the license plate and decided to stop and check, ask. I like to think that I'm giving them something to tell about. Oh, I saw this guy from Canada ride by.